Hello and welcome back to LDC FM. You're tuning into our podcast featuring interviews with our community of independent designers and industry guests. We'll be discussing topics of sustainability, conscious design, the future of fashion, tech, and innovation. This podcast has been recorded alongside an Instagram Live, so apologies for any technical issues prior to tuning in. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Rebecca and I'm the founder and CEO of HURR Design Club, and I am back today. Normally I'm on Mondays, but today I'm doing Tuesday, as I will be joined by a very special guest, Victoria Prew from HURR Collective. So today, I'm just going to pop in the comment here, the topic of our conversation, but we are going to be talking all things sustainability, clothing rentals, and the future of fashion. So let me just bring her in. Ooh, she just requested to join. I think I'm still waiting for a little notification. Okay, here we go. Okay, and Victoria's just coming in now. It's connecting, always connecting. Here we go. Hi.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good, business over.
Yeah. Yes, crazy, isn't it? Retail reopening yesterday, so I feel like as we're kind of hitting the ground running, going crazy to try and figure out what on earth is going to happen. But it's all very exciting, isn't it?
It is. I feel like a bit of normality is finally coming back, and that's no bad thing.
Yeah. Have you been into London yet, or have you been out and about?
Yeah, so we relaunched, we're running a pop-up in Selfridges at the moment, and we relaunched it yesterday, and it was definitely, it's the first time I've been into central London for a couple of months now, and there was definitely a bit of a feeling of normality, which is no bad thing in terms of, people are still cautious, definitely, but I think, wanting the world to get back to normal as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've been, it's kind of crazy. We've kind of seen the gradual re-emergence of London and people starting to venture out. And it's been a bit like 3 or 4 weeks ago, setting up, we've got 6 units open now, South Morton Street, Long Acre and Kings Road. And 6 units setting up in like 2 weeks have been insane. But it's been quite crazy. Yeah, and at the beginning there was nobody on the streets. There was nobody on transport, nothing. And then gradually, every day, it felt like, slowly people started to re-emerge. Obviously, the rules changed, but it's been amazing to see the transformation. And now you go out on the street in Oxford Circus today, and it's crazy. People are, being safe and considerate, but there's definitely that sense of wanting to get out, unity, kind of, feel a little bit normal again, which is, I think we're all kind of feeling that.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully a good time for us both to be running pop-ups in the next couple of months.
Definitely. Yeah, how was yesterday for you guys? Was there a footfall? It was good. There were people around.
Yeah, I was amazed. I think you never really know when government rules change and how kind of department stores are going to respond. We're on obviously Oxford Street, which is super busy at the best of times. So it's really, really interesting just to see, everyone. And I was amazed with actually how busy it was. Definitely people being considerate, and Selfridges, where we're running our pop-up, are really, really geared up to make sure that they can cope. And I was amazed actually with how well everything was run in store. So I feel like, there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes to make sure that people can socially distance and that there are enough kind of processes in place. But I'm hoping that things will be quick to recover for us and hopefully you guys too.
Yeah, definitely. And did you have many people trying on, or how was that process going for you? Because I think this is probably a question everyone's asking. How is it working? If you go into Selfridges now, are people trying on, or are you able to? How does that all work?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something that has come up quite a lot, obviously. A big part of the reason that you go shopping is so that you can try things on, right? Yeah. And you can try things on in store, but what happens, anything that is tried on in store is then put into a kind of secure storage unit in quarantine for 72 hours before it's then put back on the shop floor, just so you can make really doubly sure that there isn't anything kind of transmitted, when people are trying clothes on, etc. And yeah, there are pretty clear and stringent policies in place from, you know, wiping down and anti-backing, you know, every part of the pop up through to, you know, sanitizing the keypad before people put in their payment details. So it's really interesting and, you know, very little room for error. So yeah, we're absolutely, you know, on it and making sure that we're doing the right thing as a concession too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is. It's crazy though, isn't it? I remember we had a look at or Alice, who manages our retail, was looking at all the rules, and she was like, whoa, this is like, you know, we had to like, you know, write everything up. We've done a whole blog on it, mailers on it, just because it is so important for customers and us to understand the rules and the parameters. And it's, you know, walk in the door, there's a little sanitary station, put a mask on, hand wash, gloves. It's the whole, you know, the whole shebang, which is amazing. But it's so different. It's such a new, definitely a new type of normal, a new way of shopping that we've never encountered, nor I don't think anyone kind of expected. But it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. But so anyway, I feel like I'm just super excited to like hear more. So I feel like I'm totally jumping the gun. But take us back. So for those who have just joined us, or my rabbiting on anyway, to take us back to the beginning. So Victoria is the founder and CEO or co-founder? Co-founder,
yeah.
Of HURR Collective. So today we're going to be talking all things sustainability, clothing rental, and future of fashion. So start off, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started HURR, and I guess what the mission or what the values are behind the business.
Of course, so yeah, I'm Victoria and I'm a co-founder of HURR. Basically spent the last 2.5 years of my life building HURR from kind of line one of code and launching it last year after a kind of year of building and testing and not so glamorous side of business. I trained up in a kind of commercial real estate, so a bit different, but I'd run a tech company when I was at uni and knew that tech was what I was passionate about and what I wanted to do longer term, and basically jumped at the chance of leaving the corporate world and giving it a go. And in terms of the reason kind of why we started HURR, it's kind of twofold. One is sharing economy, and we were fascinated by, you know, the fact that people are sharing things and, you know, people, you know, share houses and cars, and why not clothes? And then second is sustainability, which is absolutely core to our business. And even, you know, 2.5, 3 years ago, we really looked at it and we were convinced that it wasn't a trend as everyone thought it was, and that it was a real movement, and that one day, you know, and it's actually come sooner than I thought, things were really going to shift and the consumer was going to wake up to the fact that, you know, they hold the power and where they spend their pound, they choose which businesses back. So yeah, I feel quite fortunate that the two trends of kind of sharing economy and sustainability, which are trends in are now massive movements, really gained momentum really quickly, and hopefully we're in the right kind of verticals to make it work.
Yeah, amazing. And so take us back a little bit then. I mean, I feel like everyone has their own personal sustainability story. So what's yours? Why is it important to you, and why is it important to HURR?
So I guess, you know, but by and large, I am the HURR customer. I was out there looking for a smarter way of shopping. All of my friends who went to university in the States or that I knew that were based in the States were all using a platform called Rent the Runway. And I was really fascinated by the idea that people were renting clothes and changing up their wardrobes. You know, we all live in flats and houses that are smaller than ever. We don't want loads of stuff. And I think if there's anything the lockdown's taught us is that we want less stuff and, you know, jumble. We really just want a bit more of a minimal life and work out what we really value and what we don't. So definitely personally, I'd say I was the target customer. I'd buy things, wear them a couple of times and then not know what to do with them. Okay. But I was also a pretty savvy shopper in terms of always using eBay, and now I'm a pretty avid Depop user as well. But I've used, you know, eBay since the early 2000s to buy designer things or even contemporary things that I didn't want to spend full RRP on. And so it was really born out of a view that I was going to be building something for people like me and for millennials that wanted a smarter way of shopping. And I really felt like there was a gap in the market for accessing fashion without fundamentally having to own it.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. And how does it work with the brands? Or tell us a bit about how the platform works, and also how you're different. You know, you've spoken about Rent the Runway. We've also, you know, by rotation, there are various other platforms. So what makes HURR different, and how does it work for a customer and for a brand? I guess a brand can also be on the platform.
Yeah, of course. So we are a peer-to-peer rental platform, first and foremost. So the idea is we're actually a tech company, you know, at heart. We've really spent a long time building a super scalable, seamless tech platform. And the idea is, for those that don't know, it's a peer-to-peer marketplace. You can actually lend out your clothes. So if you're sat there in lockdown looking at all the things in your wardrobe thinking, I can actually make some money out of them, rather than having to resell them, you can actually rent and create, you know, multiple incomes from one item. And then on the other hand, you can actually rent from other women in her community. So on average, it might cost, you know, 15 to 20% of the RRP of an item to rent it for a couple of days, rather than buying something for, you know, £150, 200 through to, you know, £500 on an outfit that you might not wear, or, you know, wear enough to make it worthwhile. So the two sides of our marketplace is super important. In terms of our differentiators, we're a tech-first business. We've spent a long time really building a great, you know, website and platform to be super scalable. And really interestingly, in the last kind of couple of months, we've been testing brands, to your point. And I feel like there's a big market for brands who are, you know, have an oversupply of stock, or they're smaller brands and they've been hit badly by COVID, and actually opening up rental as an opportunity for them online, and then to kind of test that kind of bricks and mortar through our Selfridges pop-up as well. It's a huge USP for us to test brands. And actually, you know, I think it's 75% of our users, they rent brands that they've never bought before. So you have a really nice kind of, you know, discovery element of the platform as well, people trying things that they, you know, have never heard of, or if it's an Australian brand or a vintage piece. So it's a super exciting time for us, definitely.
Okay, yeah, interesting. And how does it work with the brands? You know, so sustainability is such a big part of HURR. Does that then also apply or cross over to what brands you work with and what products are allowed to be uploaded on the site by customers?
Yeah, so we've taken a really hard line since kind of day one on HURR. So we have a HURR-free policy. Obviously, as a peer-to-peer marketplace, we have quality control, and we upload. We basically test every item and check every item before it's listed on HURR. So we have three kind of requirements. One is that it's over £120 RRP, generally that it's under 2 years old, and three, that it's in excellent condition. So there are a few kind of caveats to that. For example, vintage, which does really well on our platform, but generally we don't want HURR to be a kind of jumble sale. We want it to be aspirational and people to feel kind of special in rental pieces. And then to your question about brands, we found that a lot of brands kind of organically use our HURR platform, and we see them crop up, you know, every couple of days, a new brand from a kind of, you know, startup, you know, London College of Fashion, new brand that's having their first collection, through to now pretty established retailers who want to trial rental. And there are a number of ways that we get involved with that, and help them with their kind of journey of renting, whether they want to manage things themselves or we can help. But there are a whole kind of host of ways that either, you know, peer-to-peer space works, or brands, depending on how involved the brand or the person wants to be.
Okay, amazing. Interesting. And how does it work? I mean, how have you seen rental, the reaction to rental through the current pandemic? Are people still renting? Has there been an increase, or are people a bit more wary? How's the reaction been?
Yeah, so we had a kind of significant drop at the beginning of COVID, and we are still largely an event-driven business, and a lot of our kind of, you know, in-store rentals and online rentals were geared towards the fact that you had, you know, 7 weddings to go to this summer, and your 30th birthday, and your, you know, grandparents' birthday, or whatever it was. And so we were definitely hit from a demand point of view, for the pure simple fact that people didn't have events to go to. And we've really used this time to kind of think about the HURR brand, what we want to be doing differently. We're currently running, today is actually our last day, of a HURR sales. So we went to all of our lenders and said to them, you know, you guys are the lifeblood of HURR, what do you guys want to see from us? And they said, actually, we want to be switching up our wardrobes and, you know, selling stuff through you guys rather than using another platform to sell stuff. So we've been trialing selling for the first time, just in kind of 3 day short period, and it's gone really, really well. We've had a great response to that. So this time for us has been a bit of a kind of step back, assess, and try new things, because I feel like everyone's going to navigate this space and work out what's going to work and what's not. And you know, I'm very much of a kind of test and learn opinion. Give something a go. If it doesn't work, not the end of the world, but you just never know. So yeah, we're trialing a whole host of things behind the scenes.
That's really interesting. And I mean, what are you kind of anticipating long term? You know, do you, especially being events driven, obviously the pandemic, you know, or the current situation is looking like it's going to last until the vaccine. You know, especially travel, and if people are going to weddings, if that's France, Italy, and places. So what are you expecting, or how are you, I guess, pivoting to be able to continue, you know, business growth?
So definitely kind of pivoting away from occasions. We want HURR really to be a platform where, you know, every occasion you would have a reason to rent. So rather than it just being the kind of big occasions of, you know, Ascot or a wedding, like people kind of have an association with rental just for those kind of high days and holidays. We're really trying to build a platform where you can rent, you know, a fun dress for a date night or a picnic in the park, you know, every couple of days or every couple of weeks, rather than just you know, I'll rent one thing one off every couple of months. So it's definitely a shift in terms of where we're trying to take the business. We've done a lot of research about, you know, the HURR customers' fashion habits, you know, when they spend, when they don't, and really just, I guess, trying to incorporate rental into someone's everyday life rather than just being seen as a high days and holidays model is definitely a focus of ours, and largely driven by our users who just want a fun top for 15, 20, 30 pounds. For 4 or 8 days, rather than, you know, a stunning ball gown. And we've never really been to kind of sequin ball gowns, but we've definitely been driven towards, you know, more elevated pieces. So it is a fine balance, but we're doing a lot of work to work out what that balance is and bring on some really interesting kind of, you know, new wardrobes and brands, and trying to identify lenders to get that balance right a bit better too, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. That sounds great. And then just going back to brands, so you did mention it, or I've seen on your website, you work with a lot of really big brands, but you did say you're also now starting to work with smaller brands. So at the moment, the way it works, you can apply to join and you can be a HURR girl, I think it is, which is amazing. And then you enter the community, and essentially you are just renting from other peers within the community. How does so I guess obviously there's a lot of big brands, but in terms of small brands, do you find that people are putting up pieces, you know, smaller brand items, and putting those up for rental, and that other people are actually interested in renting something unique and a bit different from smaller brands, or is it mainly the kind of bigger brands that are what people are really trying to rent?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. You know, are people going for the brands that they know and already have in their wardrobes, or you know, the slightly more under the radar brands? And I definitely think that there was already a shift pre-COVID to kind of small shopping independents, supporting kind of, you know, British-owned brands or interesting brands that you've seen on Instagram, for example. And I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think some customers are driven by having the latest Rixo dress or amazing needle and thread gown, and some really want to support the cool independent brand that they've seen on Instagram, or, you know, that piece that they have seen on their favourite influencer that uses the HURR platform. So I think it's a bit of both. We've always had small independent brands on the platform, and my goal really is to open up rental for them as an additional revenue stream that's much more established than ever before, and particularly for brands who we know are pivoting hugely in this time, or are still sat on stock, you know, trying to share that story of, you know, how cool if something was never put into production, rather than your customers worrying about what happens to those dead stock pieces. Why not trial rental, see if it works, see if people like it. And I guess our ultimate goal is that people would test, you know, upcoming collections, or have a really nice brand story about the piece, you know, the story behind the piece, rather than just having kind of, you know, beautiful dress, actually knowing who it was made by and where it's come from. It's definitely a huge focus on the kind of smaller brand space.
Yeah, definitely. That's super interesting. And then, so I guess, like, so in Selfridges at the moment, you've got a pretty good policy on, we're all doing it, the 72-hour quarantine, steaming, everything like that. But how does it just kind of came to me like, how has it been working through the period? I mean, what if it's peer-to-peer rental? Essentially, I could rent out a couple of pieces. Do I have to, or what guidelines do I follow if someone does rent from me? How does that work? Because I guess you have no relationship with the actual item. It's totally peer-to-peer.
Yeah, exactly. So we're definitely a managed marketplace where we sit above the platform, and we have pretty stringent rules, and have always had pretty stringent rules around how cleanliness and hygiene, because it's frankly pretty pivotal to our business. For example, it's always been a requirement that the lender is responsible for dry cleaning. So if you rented something from me, the dry cleaning is my responsibility. That's always been the case. Everything has to be professionally dry cleaned before it's sent out. And we've really just used this time to clearly update our FAQs as much as possible. When people have questions about how things work, give as much guidance as we possibly can do. Things that are simple to get our customers to do, or our lenders and our renters, such as my HURR-mates, we do a contactless delivery and pick up, through to can we help people with their dry cleaning choices, or can we step in and get involved in the process as well? There's definitely been a test and a bit of a test and learn, but I think it's been an interesting time where people are still renting through the platform. I think particularly as lockdown seems to slightly be lifting now, people I think and what we've experienced, people are wanting to get dressed up, maybe not in a £500 maxi dress, but people definitely want elevated pieces. I think we've been in lockdown for a long time now, so there's definitely customer appetite to lend and rent, and I think on the lending side the kind of side hustle is more popular than ever now. People are going to be struggling to pay bills at the end of the day, and if we can kind of get people to make money from their wardrobes and get that kind of side hustle going, and that's a huge part of what the HURR mission is, and empowering our customers to be entrepreneurs through our platform.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's a really nice story. Amazing. So obviously you opened Selfridges yesterday. So how long is that going to continue for? Because I feel like you guys opened that just before the pandemic hit, and then obviously it hit totally closed. So was it initially supposed to be a couple of months, or is it something that's just going to continue? How is the Selfridges pop going to work? I'm assuming that's going to be a massive draw for people out and about wanting to try on and get get out there a bit and get some beautiful pieces.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the timing slightly sucks for us as a business. We launched Selfridges 3.5 weeks before lockdown, and it was a huge success. We had great kind of feedback from existing HURR customers, and also the target market in Selfridges is huge for us, and incredible to have that kind of brand awareness. And it went incredibly well for the first kind of 3 and a bit weeks that we launched. We're obviously only on day 2 today, and I can see my Slack kicking off with lots of people trying things on and trying to work out how things are going to work going forward. But it's super exciting. We're going to be there for the next couple of months, and really I think what's interesting is there's a big push to going out and buying, but also I think my view is that sustainability as a kind of concept has really come on 5 years in the last kind of 6 weeks, in terms of the kind of interest and the consumer power and their stance on sustainability. So I feel like once things do start easing back, and hopefully events start, etc., we should be really well placed to have a more sustainable option than those kind of wear at once occasions or one-off buys. So yeah, fingers crossed. The next couple of weeks are going to be, I think, really telling for both me and you as to how things recover. But from day 1 to day 1.5, it seems to be going pretty well. Yeah,
it's exciting, isn't it? There's a lot of it's crazy. I was kind of yesterday walking down Oxford Street. And it's nice to see people out again. It's nice to see that buzz and excitement. Everyone, again, they're being very considerate. People are keeping their distance. Just great stores, I think, have coped so well. There's queues outside, there's markers everywhere, masks on entry, everything, which I think is great. But there's definitely that sense of, let's, yay, we can kind of get out, the sun's shining, I can, go get a drink, some food, browse the shops, which is so great to see. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it unfolds. So I guess we'll just kind of wait and see and keep going. Yeah.
I feel like particularly sustainability focused companies and also companies that have sustainability at their core, rather than having to do a bit of a 360 pivot during lockdown because it's suddenly, you know, really taken off, are really, really well placed to make, you know, to take advantage of the consumer and actually get into the consumer's head about what they want and where they want to spend their money, because I think it's changing rapidly, and there are businesses that are hopefully the right side and also on the wrong side. It's going to be a fascinating time to see, you know, is sustainability really front and centre, or how can we pivot to really capture that audience, which I'm sure you think as well is ever growing in terms of their interest in sustainability.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. And I think it's interesting what you said before, you know, talking about sustainability, this becoming part of a customer's mindset. And we're certainly seeing it. You know, obviously, you know, people are being much more conscious with their decisions, which I think is absolutely crucial. And it's nice to see that it's not just been businesses reflecting on themselves and repositioning themselves through this time, but I think customers and just people in general have really kind of used this period to think about what's important to them, how important where they put their money is, because you're not just buying something, but you're you know, you're making a vote, or you're backing something, which is so important. And the power of that in social media right now is huge, and it's great to see. I mean, you know, for us especially, we've got some designers that are doing exceptionally well, and it's so fantastic to see that momentum and that drive and all the hard work they've put into creating such a sustainable approach, the way they're sourcing, their ethical manufacture, everything finally paying off, and customers finally taking note, and yes, spending a little bit more, but buying one item as opposed to many that are going to deteriorate, pieces that they will hold, pass down to generations or whatnot. So it's yeah, I agree, it's super interesting on the sustainability front. I just hope that we can continue it. I think that's
me too, and I think what you guys have done extremely well, and something that I think we can learn from you and what you've done is I think giving a voice to the brand. I think for so long brands have been slightly faceless, and you never really know, you know, the amazing art that goes on behind the scenes, and the product and the process. It's such a fascinating time and journey, and actually the more I've learned about brands, and we're still very new in terms of kind of testing brands and seeing what brands think of rental, but there's so much to learn from the brand, and my view is if you can give the brand a voice, and the founder or the person that's actually sat there making the dresses or the shoes day in day out, the chance of the customer actually having some, I mean, I know personally, when I can see who the person is behind the brand, I'm much more compelled to support them, so I feel like you guys have done a great job of that, and we should definitely learn from that as well.
Oh, that's nice, thank you. We try. It's hard, but that's been one of the most difficult challenges, because you know, we're so physical based, and our pop-up stores have been such, you know, it's been about 90% of our driver. So, you know, it's totally different, a physical experience where you can come in and meet the person behind the brand and hear that story. You take that digital, it is so hard. You don't have that same connection with somebody you have face to face. That experience totally changes. And I'm sure you've probably seen it a lot, having the physical space versus being digital. Physical is so crucial. I still have people that come to me now and they're like, no, the pandemic has totally accelerated it. All digital, nothing physical ever again. And I'm like, no, it's not possible. You know, we're just right now, it has accelerated, but we're shifting. But there is an importance for physical in the future, and it's not just going to go away. It's just going to change into more of an omni-channel, and we're going to need to adapt and become more, you know, work as a hybrid in terms of how we approach both. But I don't know, I really miss pop-ups, talking to people, that connection, that community, trying stuff on. It's very difficult to replicate online. It's one of the biggest challenges. So
but I feel like there's a happy medium hopefully. I mean, yesterday when I was in Selfridges, there was this young woman there who was looking to rent a wedding dress and was trying on this amazing white Zimmermann dress, and was saying, you know, I think she was getting married in Iceland, and was saying, you know, I've never spent £500 on a dress, but how fab that I can have this for 2 weeks whilst I get married. And I completely agree. I've definitely missed in lockdown personally that kind of buzz that comes with, you know, people walking into our pop-up and saying like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, oh that's such a clever idea, and you're like, you know, it's great to hear that kind of, I guess, from someone that's never come across your brand or heard of renting or even thought about renting, and then they see a big sign that says thanks, it's rented, and you can kind of see the cogs whirring in their head. It's definitely fascinating to see, but I completely agree. I think that the kind of pop-up and bricks and mortar retail space is going to change pretty drastically in the next couple of weeks, months, and years.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting to see. And see how customers continue to react, and also how landlords and retailers are going to survive, because this is certainly put everyone to the test. But it has been, and I'm curious to know your opinion on this, but what we've really seen is it's been quite an interesting equalizer. It feels like the first time that big and small brands have all faced exactly the same challenges. Nobody can get out of this easier. Everyone's got the same situation with the pandemic. Nobody saw it coming. All in the same boat. We've all had to pivot and to react. And just reading articles about huge companies that their head of marketing is like, we're day by day now, 3-month strategy out the window. And it's quite a nice feeling to kind of look at it and be like, this is everyone all in this position. This is
how are we going to get through it?
Exactly, and innovate and
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. I think from a HURR perspective, we're still a kind of tech-first online business, and we run incredibly leanly. All of our kind of value is in our team and our tech. But definitely, I think the hardest thing I found personally during lockdown is, when you normally run a startup, there's always someone you can call who's probably been through that problem or had that issue, or you want advice on X, and there's always someone that I found you can call, or WhatsApp, or Zoom, whatever. And for the first time, it doesn't matter who the advisors are or the team is, no one actually has the answers, which is really hard when actually the answers and the decisions fall on you, and actually the cleverest, most sophisticated brands in the world don't know the answers either. So I definitely think it's a fascinating time to kind of work out, and I actually think the winners are going to be the companies that are lean enough and agile enough to pivot and launch things in 3 days once they have an idea, or 3 weeks once they have an idea, because it comes down to how quickly you can respond. And for the bigger brands, it's hard to go through that iteration of change. And I guess for you and hopefully us as well, we can actually respond, almost on demand to what people want from our businesses.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's exactly what the kind of past months have been for us. It's crazy to kind of think back. And kind of, we went into the pandemic and everyone was like, oh, let's use this time to reflect and pause. And I feel like LDC just got crazier and busier, and everyone's like, oh my God, there's just so much now. So it's been...
I feel the same. If it makes you feel any better.
Good, it does. Because I'm just like, why are we working so crazy? Yeah,
I know.
It's insane, but it's all good, and it'll be exciting to see over the next few weeks and months how everything kind of pans out. And what happens.
Definitely.
Cool. So we're pretty much been half an hour. It's been a great conversation. So let's finish on a more personal note. So obviously the pandemic, it's been crazy it's been a crazy time for everyone in business. But how have you personally found it, and how have you got through it? Because I feel like it's, one of the other things I like about this period is, especially doing Instagram Live and all these things, is, we get to actually talk as humans, which we often don't have this relationship. And I think people like right now to kind of hear a bit about how everyone is dealing with things and what's going on, and just opening up that kind of behind the scenes humanness a bit more, which is for so long just feels like it was so kind of coveted and hidden. So how are you doing?
It's really interesting. I must say, I know most people have hated lockdown, but for me, I have really, really loved the last 3 months. Actually, for me, it's just been a moment of stillness. And after 2.5 years of, really working 7 days a week, you're sleeping so disrupted because you're stressed and you're worried and you're anxious about things not working or things working and you can't keep up. For me, this has been a bit of a breather, and I think much needed. I remember when I first started HURR, everyone said, running a company's a marathon or a sprint, and I always was like, it's a sprint. It's like, this needs to be done tomorrow or over the night, and it needs to be done by 7 a.m. the next morning so that I can review it when I wake up. And I think it's definitely given a bit of balance to me. I think definitely last year I lost that balance, and it was a 7-day a week, something by my bed so I can write down notes when I wake up in the middle of the night. And actually, I think what I've learned throughout this is that actually health is wealth in terms of you being well and you driving things forward. And actually, it's not selfish to put yourself first in terms of looking after yourself and your team, because actually, if you want your business to have longevity and to be around in 3, 5, 10, 15 years' time, it is not a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that's been my biggest learning, is actually a bit of a breather, and a bit like you, we're still as busy as we ever have been, probably busier for some reason. There seems to be more kind of exciting projects going on than ever before, but I definitely think it's allowed me as a co-founder of the business to actually think a bit more big picture. And I think when you're running the rat race day in, day out, you actually, it's really hard to think about what the vision looks like in 3 years' time or further into the future. It's kind of also immediate, and what am I going to do before 7 o'clock tonight? So it's definitely a bigger picture and a bit of a chance to reflect, for sure.
Amazing. That's really good to hear. Well, you'll now be hitting the ground running as everything starts to open up back to normal, kind of. I guess that's straight back to it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's been really, really fun. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. This is being recorded, so it will be on podcast, as well as to IG stories, IGTV. And if you have any questions or you're curious about anything, please get in touch, as always, with either myself on the Lone Sign Club account or Victoria on the HURR Collective account. Anything at all. We love feedback, we love questions, we love comments, we love to learn more. So just anything, please share. Please keep us updated, and please keep watching and following. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
No, pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been great. Cool.
Take care. Well, I'll see you at South Morter Street.
Yes, do. Well, just across the road in Selfridges. So yeah, let me know when you're around and we'll catch up. Cool. All right.
Will do. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much again for tuning in. Head to our website, lonedesignclub.com, and find more LDCFM podcasts, or discover more about our independent designers online.